Hey there YouTube fans, AC Productions here, and today I'm going to be showing you on how to install these heel guards. So these heel guards are made of aluminum, pretty good quality I would say. Thickness is going to be a lot thicker than your stock ones, but at least for your stock ones they make it look like they're thick, but they're really not, they're really thin. So the quality is pretty good, not bad. I think it has a pretty cool design on it. Okay, so let's move on to the tools needed for the job. Okay, so what comes in with the kit of the heel guards is going to be these bolts, but again, I'm not 100% if these bolts are actually going to fit on our bike. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. It's kind of luck of the draw with these parts, but we're going to go ahead and we're going to see if they do. If they do, that's great. If they don't, we will just use our stock original bolts. Next, what we're going to need to install the heel guard is going to be two different size Allen keys. So for the right side, it's going to be a 5mm Allen key, and then for the left side, it's actually going to be a 4mm Allen key. I usually like to use this little mini ratchet handle for my Allen keys, and you get a little bit more torque with this. But if you don't happen to have one of these, you could also use a regular handle kind. Just put the piece in there and it's almost the same thing. Besides those pieces, you're going to need some blue Loctite. Okay, let's get started. Okay, we're going to start on our left side for the heel guard. And as you can see, I kind of got tired of the stock look of my heel guards. So I saw in an R3 forum, which I'll post the link on the bottom of how to get to the R3 forum, and so you can be a part of it. It's a big group, a lot of friendly riders on there, lots of advice. I truly recommend on checking out the forum. So I did see another rider post that he had covered his stock heel guards in a carbon fiber wrap. I thought it looked really cool, so I decided to do it myself. But now I think it's already time to change them up and actually get a heel guard with some design. Well, first off, we're going to take out the screws. So it's just these two bolts, and that will take out your heel guard. So with this tool, it actually makes it a lot easier on taking out the bolts. So right when you take out the bolt, just put your heel guard off to the side. So that's how easily it comes off. And these actually weigh a good amount of, I don't know they weighed so much. And look how dirty they are in the back. So you just go ahead and put that off to the side. Now let's grab our aftermarket guard. Okay, now let's see if those if the bolts that came with the heel guards fit our stock setup. So I grab my bolt right here. Let's go ahead and see if it fits. Yep, perfect fitment. Only upon inspecting it though, now that I'm looking at it, the stock ones are actually not that long compared to the aftermarket. So you can see the difference on how long the aftermarket ones are compared to the stock. And looking at how far it's going to go in, I think we're going to have an issue with this long one. So we're going to actually cut this one to the same length as our stock one. Now if you're mentioning why not just use the stock ones again, well, we could use the stock ones all over again if you like, but when you notice that on the aftermarket it actually has an indentation for the bolts that came with it. So as you can see, it just goes right on in, and it kind of just fits a little bit more flush onto the heel guard. If we use our stock ones, it'll just stick out that much. So it's not a big deal. If you wanted to use it, you can. It's actually not a bad look. It actually looks pretty cool having it like that. But if you wanted to use the ones that came with it, which will give it like this kind of look, which also looks pretty cool too. So I think we're gonna stick with this one. If I happen to change my mind later on and want to put the other ones, I can. So right now we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna mark it and we're gonna cut it. Also kind of forgot to mention on why the reason I'm gonna be cutting the bolts is because as you notice, when we put the bolt in, it already hits the frame of the bike. So even if we wanted to put these on, they're not gonna fit all the way because they're gonna hit the frame of the bike. So that'll be enough. That's the reason why we're gonna cut them down to the same length as the stock ones. And then for the back one, even though there's nothing to get in its way, if we were to put it on there, say what about this much, we're gonna have a big bolt sticking on the other side. And if there's no need to have a big bolt sticking on the other side, then we're gonna cut it. The fatter ones are going to be for the right side. The skinnier ones are going to be for the left side. Okay, so the additional tools we're going to need to cut out those bolts is going to be a Dremel tool with a metal reinforced cutting wheel right there, vice grips, and blue painter's tape. If you don't have vice grips but have something better, like this table vise, then I would suggest a table vise instead of the vice grips. And if you're wondering why my table vise is on the ceiling, because I don't have a good enough table for my vice grips, so we're using the ceiling beams to do this part of the project. Alright, so all you need to do right now is put your screw onto the vice grip, or the table vice grip if you have one. If not, you're using the hand vice grips. Now we're just going to grab a small piece of tape. You don't need a big piece. And we're just going to measure where our small one ends. So since it's already in the vice grip, I'm just going to guesstimate right just a little bit in and say right about there. So once you mark it, that's going to give you the marking where you need to cut. So I put it in a little bit just because this one's sticking out a little bit because the button head part right there is going to be good, and that's where we're going to make our cut. Now make sure when you do your cut, make sure you wear your safety goggles because this is going to make a lot of sparks, and you definitely don't want a spark to go into your eye, so always make sure that you have your safety glasses. Okay, now once you're done cutting it, as you can see, here's the part that we masked off. Just give it a little bit of time because that's actually going to be really hot. Just give it a little time to cool off and then take it out of the vise, put it off to the side. You don't have to worry about this one because this one's already with the tape and we left a little bit hanging that we could grab onto this and put it off to the side. Also, that one is hot too. So if you wanted to not wait so long, just go ahead and put a little bit of water on that and that'll cool it off right away so you could grab onto it. Okay, so now that we're already done cutting our bolts, you want to grab your blue thread lock and then just put some thread lock on the threads. Doesn't have to be a lot, just enough to coat it. And then you go ahead and if you want, you can put it on both of the screws. Okay, once you put the thread lock on, now we're going to grab our heel guard and we're just going to go ahead and put the 2 screws in, or the 2 bolts in. So we got it on there. Then we're going to grab our 5mm Allen key, which fits perfectly on there, and we're just going to go ahead and thread them in. Let's start off with one. Once you get the first one in, then just go ahead and do the other one. With this one, just go ahead and make sure you hold the top part. I just like to go back and forth with screwing them on. Okay, once I'm done and tightening as much as I could with this, I usually like to use my mini ratchet handle, and then I'll just probably give it just a little bit more on the screw. It won't be that much, just a little bit more. I'm able to get that with this. Okay, that's it. That concludes the left side. It's on there pretty sturdy, and it actually looks a lot better than having the stock one. Plus, it actually saves on weight. Okay, now we're on the right side. You're going to grab our 5mm Allen key, and we're just going to go ahead and take out the screw on this side. And same thing at the bottom. Okay, the bottom doesn't want to seem to come out. It looks like it looks to be stripped out, so we might have a small problem on taking this one out. Let's see if maybe I could fit a bigger one and get this thing out. Okay, so now for this screw that was actually stripped out, what I did is that I put one that was just a little bit bigger, and then I grabbed a hammer and I just held it in place while tapping it. I tapped it in as far as it could go. Once it went in a little bit further in, I grabbed my mini ratchet and I was able to break it loose. Now if you have one that's really not wanting to come out, then the best thing would be to kind of just cut the screw if you're able to. But luckily for me, mine wasn't. It was getting bad, but I didn't want to strip it even more. So by putting one that was just slightly bigger and hammering it in a little bit further, I was able to break it loose. So hopefully on your bike you don't encounter the problem, but if you do, that'd be one way of solving it and getting the bolt out. Now it's going to be kind of a pain in the butt to get this Allen key out, but I think I'm going to grab my vice grips and see if I could just kind of wiggle it out and take it off. So let's give that a try and hopefully I have good luck. I'm not going to take the screw out completely because then I really won't be able to get my Allen key back out. So there we go. I was able to get it out with the vice grips. So alright, so now we just go ahead and undo the screw. Okay, so with the bolts that we got with it, they actually do fit all the way through with not a problem. So we don't have to cut these bolts because there's behind this part there's actually your brake lever pretty much. So when you take it out, your old heel guard, this part's gonna drop because of the tension of where your foot brake is at. So right now we're gonna put some Loctite on both of these bolts, and you don't have to put that much. Just go ahead and just put a little bit towards the edge there on the screw. Once you put the thread lock on, put your screws off to the side for now. And one thing that you would need to do when installing your heel guard, get this off the way there. Okay, so we have our heel guard right here. Now we're gonna grab our bolts, and when we put the heel guard on, you're gonna have to hold on to the thing in the back and bring it up forward, up a little bit, because if you don't, your bolt is never gonna go through. So right now it's kind of off of alignment. Let me see if I can get a better view for you guys. So here's a different angle of how this looks like. So when you had the heel guard on there, this was actually up. But after you take out the heel guard, this actually drops down. So upon installing the new heel guard, just hold on to the bottom end over here and just pull it up a little bit. That way you could have the bolts lined up. Once you have it lined up and you have it threaded in a little bit, then you could just let go and then tighten down the bolts all the way. Yeah, so when you go to install your heel guard, it matters on the direction you actually put it. Even though you could actually put it like that, or you could put it like this, you want to make sure you put it the correct way. So if you notice over here, this is towards the bottom, so it doesn't offer any protection on this. If something were to hit it, and over here, oh yeah, there's your brake line. There's a little bit too much protection on the brake line than there is over here. So when you turn this over, you could see this covers more of your brake switch, and still this side actually still protects the brake line in the back. But mainly the part over here, there's a little bit more on that side. So this is the way you're gonna want to install it on your bike. So we're gonna go ahead and just put our bolts through. So once we have our bolts in, we're gonna put it in the hole right there. And like I said, make sure you bring up your cylinder in the back until you feel it catch onto the screw. Once you get it on there, want to make sure you hand tighten it. Get a little bit more grip if you grab from the bottom, and just hand tighten it until you can't tighten it anymore. Once you get a good enough thread into the back, you could go ahead and let go. Okay, so now we're gonna grab our 6mm Allen key and then just go ahead and tighten it down. Once I get it as tight as it could be with that, I'm gonna grab my mini ratchet tool and then just give it a little bit an extra turn with the ratchet tool. There, that's it. That's all there is to the installation of the heel guards. So that concludes our installation for the heel guards. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please hit that like, subscribe, and leave any comments below. Thanks for watching. Okay, so I brought my scale to show you the weight difference on stock versus aftermarket. Just in case you think that some of these parts are really heavy, but they're actually not. They're actually a lot lighter than stock. So let's turn on our scale. All right, make sure our scale reads at 0. So we're gonna first weigh our stock heel guard. As you can see, it's at 7 ounces. Okay, now let's grab our aftermarket heel. Make sure it go back to 0. And let's see how much that weighs. 2 7/8 ounces. So you can see already how much lighter our aftermarket heel guards are. And then just as for comparison, now let's see how much 2 of the aftermarket heel guards weigh. So let's put our first one. Again, 2 7/8 ounces. And then let's put the other one on. That's 7 1/8 ounce. So it pretty much takes 2 aftermarket heel guards to equal 1 stock heel guard. So that just lets you know on how heavy this is. Even just holding these 2 by hand still feels a lot lighter than the stock one. Let's actually see how much 2 of these weigh. Now these are our stock heel guards. So that's our first one. Now let's put the other one on top of it and see how much that weighs both together. Look at that, 14 3/8 ounce. There you go, that's the proof right there that pretty much all the stock equipment we have on our bikes weigh a lot. So when you start changing to aftermarket parts, you're actually making your bike weigh a lot less.